sketch. In 1916, in Boabik during the strike, an accident happened when the company's guards visited the house of Philip Masanovich. Some said it was over a drink, but that's not what others think. A blind pig was implicated, a family who took in a boarder, a grudge unsettled them, a strike at fever pitch. It began underground, where the intestinal rivers wound through mineral maps. It began an extraction of the geomagnetic fields in the Canadian Shield, with the mining of ores taken for steel, paving the continent with bridges and tracks. It began in locations, in mines where money drained from the pockets and the hires carried dynamite caps. It began with fires burning behind clouds of smoke, the false night among the silhouettes, filters turning yellow and wet. Some coughed in unison and spoke in foreign tongues, in code. Some were liars, thick ores and clay and blood mix and crush wounds in miner's lung. It began in thin pay envelopes. A bullet found its way out of the gun, but the aim was wrong. One man was gone. There were some who broke the rules, and there were stools. Women couldn't remove the stains. They buried the remains, but the work went on. A woman and infant were detained in the local jail. Wobblies on another road miles away were arrested for inciting to riot and put on trial. Some votes were lost, and some were won. 100 years went by.
So your latest book is called Night Train and Red Dust.
Yes.
And set around this environment.
I've written stories that relate to many of the people that were here at the turn of the century, and my grandparents and some of my own history.
What was the spark?
I wanted to write about my grandparents when they came here from Finland, and I didn't find a whole lot of material about my grandmother. So I started to do research about the community that she came into. It was very diverse. I had read that there were about 40 languages that were spoken in this area. I grew up south of Boabik, and in the year 1900, they had 11 underground mines. There were so many difficulties in mining at that time. It was very unsafe, and people were frequently injured or killed in the operations. Half the beds in the hospital were always from miners, and there were crush wounds, being hit by a train, falling from ladders. Also, the other concerns that they had listed at that time were typhoid, venereal disease, and gunshots. So it was a wild place.
As a poet, how did you decide kind of what language, what voice to use in these?
I worked at Mintac in college one summer when I was in college. My sister worked for LTV. She was a train engineer. She retired from there, so she had a career in mining. My aunts had worked in the iron mines during World War II. I could hear their voices. You know, the voice that I used here, I think, was the voice that I heard when I was growing up. Oliver Mine, World War II. An all-female crew in the pit on day shift, pickaxe, shovel, crowbar. They wear work boots, men's bib overalls, beneath plaid shirts, thermal underwear, and bras stained with iron ore. They tie their heads with triangle scarves. They don't mind getting dirty working in the mine while the men are off to war. In the pocket, a flask, a pack of cigarettes, a navy handkerchief, lunch boxes, gray as artillery. No heels to wobble after the whistle blows when they put a nickel in the jukebox in neon glow. Dance to a love song, fingernails stained by toil. Ton after ton loaded on rails. They went deeper after the dynamite with shovels bent to the task and took out the very ground they were standing on.
Is there a characteristic that defines the kind of woman who could survive here?
They were people who had a great deal of resilience and a great deal of mission to help other people, and a strong sense of community, and very independent.
So as a poet, tell me your journey. You know, when did you say writing is for me?
Oh, okay. Well, I started writing poetry when I was a teenager, actually, in school. And in college, I always loved to read, and I loved literature. But it took me a long time to realize that my voice and my strength as a writer comes from my place in the world, my landscape. And by using the language and the experience of people here, I think has really made the voice in this book strong.
What is your impression of this place that we're standing? 1906,
Well,
Mitchell Yard.
This is a testament, probably, to the energy and the abilities of the people that came here, that were able to move so many million, tons of ore out of this one small roundhouse during World War I and World War II. My geology. I excavate these words from a vein of iron, from stones broken beneath old growth, from the open pit lit by dynamite, by men whose lives are punctuated by midnights, who drive new cars to the plant, to the crusher and agglomerator, and later suffer mesothelioma. I drive in acid rain, my compass gone awry over protozoic layers with four-wheel drive. These words are test drills and core samples from the boundary waters. These words are wrung from the whistles and wheels that turn. These words have never been projected into boardrooms. I have yet to wield these powers or capitalize. I have yet to see the returns. I claim my words from the broken English, damaged roots, finished syntax, and geomagnetic fields, from eminent domain in small print, unreadable clauses. I find my vowels from labor contracts and mine dumps, factories, and invisible contamination. My words in the runoff in open streams oxidize, form like tree rings in industrial circles, heat in the smelters, pour like lava into steel, form these rails that carry the trains, these trains that carry this freight.